to see. Okay, today this is Dad Crafted, and we are making an eagle roll.
Yes.
Woo!
So this is our entry for the Rockler Bentwood Challenge from the Modern Maker podcast. This is the Great Eagle Bow from the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The Legend of Zelda is one of the most amazing games ever, and not just the most recent Breath of the Wild, but of course, all of the Legend of Zelda games across time going back to when I was their age.
The new Legend of Zelda is coming out soon.
Oh.
Not today, by a few days.
They haven't done any sponsored content yet.
Yeah, so they at the start of the game.
Let's hold off before we promote part 2. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has all kinds of awesome enemies, villains, and weapons.
And all Ganons. Them are hard to beat, even Ganon.
Yeah.
Even the egg is say 114 or 14 or like.
But one of the best bows in The Legend of Zelda is the Great Eagle Bow.
And the Emerald Great Bow is the bow when you're trying to beat the Ganon, pig, and who gets in.
We're not going to spoil the game for anyone, are we? The game is full of great weapons. We decided to try and take a stab at making the Great Eagle Bow. It seemed like a perfect idea for the Rockler Bentwood Challenge to do a bow since there's so many bends. Why just make it out of regular wood and paint it when you can actually make it out of Purple Heart and Padauk and Maple? So, let's see how we did it. Let's go.
Let's do it.
So this might be tough to see, but I've drawn a pencil line right there, right on the table saw, because I can wipe it off later when I'm done. But that's the spot that I want to get the board right up to. And then this should take off the little bit less than 1/8 strip. This is the strip I'm keeping, and then every cut I just keep moving this a hair over right up against that line. Strips cut, I needed to make a form so that I could glue them together so that they would retain a bent shape. I'm using my kid's toy plastic bow here to act as a guide so that I can keep this to the size I want and to give the right amount of bend. I measured the desired length of the strip, and then I lined up my saw blade with that line and then made a mark actually on the miter saw stand so that I could make a bunch of repeatable cuts since I had about 30 some of these things to cut. Each end of the bow has got a couple different curvy sections, so I used a 2x6 and a 2x4 to get me both of those curves. Then it was time for a bunch of glue and a bunch of clamps. I used wax paper around all this so that the forms wouldn't stick to the actual pieces that I was gluing together. Of course, since it's a bow, I needed to do both of these pieces all over again. Pro tip, having a benchtop sander definitely improves and speeds up this whole process. The way this bow is designed, it's got 2 equal pieces that have wings on the end of it, so rather than doing 2 separate bends, I just did 1 Purple Heart bend and then ripped it in half on the bandsaw. It seemed like the safest way to do it. I was truly figuring out all of this joinery as I went. For at least the first end that I tried to put together, there was a lot of putting pieces down, drawing some marks, and then just laying it out and seeing what looked the best. I really wanted the wings of the bow to be made of yellow heart, but apparently there's some yellow heart embargo going on or something, so maple it is. Another pro tip, when doing small pieces like this, you should wear gloves. Not pictured here, but I lost control of one of these and pushed my finger right onto the moving sandpaper. There's the band-aid. But anyway, for joinery on these, I'm just doing some L-shaped cuts, and then I head over to the bandsaw and cut things out, and then I'll wood glue them all together. Tightbond III, because I need all the help I can get. My kids are totally going to break this the first Tuesday. Next up are the feather looking pieces that go around the handle. These are white in color, so maple is the natural choice. But I needed 2 on each side, so one's a little bit bigger than the other. I cut out one big one, one little one, and then just traced around those to replicate the same size for the other side. Note, I'm wearing gloves now. The handle of the bow is red, so I found a scrap piece of Padauk that was 1 inch by 1 inch. And I just used a roundover bit on the router table to round it out and make it more of an oval shaped handle. To attach the feather pieces together, I drew a line on both ends where I wanted them to connect, and then I drilled holes big enough for a dowel to go in, and then wood glued everything together. Process again to attach those feathered pieces to the handle itself. Now to glue the main pieces of the bow together. Step 1 was just basically getting the one middle piece connected to one side piece, clamp that up, and then let it sit overnight. Now, the actual bow has a couple gear-looking thingies that go between the wing pieces that the string is supposed to wrap around to connect both ends of the bow. This is not an exact replica, so I just cut out a couple little cylinders out of maple. Then it was just a matter of doing some more holes for some more dowel and wood glue joinery. Full assembly time, and this was kind of complicated. So it was the middle piece and the one end piece that I'd already glued together, attaching to the other end piece, but not just that, because you had to have the middle piece that the thread goes around and the dowels inside there with the glue, and not to mention the other bendy piece had to go in the middle of that, and there was also one extra piece on the other side of the bendy piece that had to be glued and clamped together too. And then repeat all that on the other side. A mantra in my shop is buy more clamps. I figured there'd be plenty of holes to fill with this project, so I saved a bunch of purple hard dust. bandsaw for a couple more decorative pieces. Each side of the bow has these little tip point things on the end, so using maple again here, but you'll see in a second it'll all make sense. And again, just doing some simple L cuts for the joinery. Almost there now. Just shortening things up here so I can attach to the handle. Now I just gotta figure out how to glue it all up. Ready! Finally ready to attach, and I'm using dowels again. Drilling the holes and drilling them straight was actually a lot harder than it looks here. I couldn't get the handle to actually fit underneath my drill press to where I could clamp it, so I tried to just hold it really tight up against the vise and then drill straight down. And then likewise for drilling the hole into the bow pieces. This was even more of a problem because I couldn't drill too far into the bow because of the curve. I would drill right through the piece. So the hole could only be so deep, and it had to be at the perfect angle so that I wouldn't have a gap when I attached the handle.
Oh yeah.
Supposed to be kid size. Oops. So since this Ruckler Bent Wood Challenge was sponsored by the guys over at the Modern Maker podcast, I had to go with Simple Finish. Maker brand Simple Finish.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the little bell so you get updates when we post new videos.
Thank you for watching this video at the end. It's so cool. We're going to be at the end too.
So this is the first time that I've ever done bent wood in my life. I'd say this was a success. These are definitely solid, and the Purple Heart probably helps that. The rest of it, probably concerning. I don't think with these two that the joinery on the handle where it meets the bow pieces is probably going to hold up very well. As you can tell, they're ruffians. For now, it looks pretty cool, and it's definitely a good learning step on how to make a future one. I think for round 2, when we do another Zelda weapon, we will definitely do more of the
like the Master Sword.
The Master Sword?
And like and beat the bad guys you saw. But don't beat tries. But watch out for Ganon. Him hard to beat. Guardians. Don't go to the castle without getting all the shrine pieces.
So when we do this in the future, we'll probably make more of an exact replica, and if these pieces are thicker and at least at this part, and then kind of curved down, we'll probably have more room to actually add some bigger dowels, bigger joinery pieces to go into the handle. Yep, see? We're all in agreement. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Stop hitting yourself.
Sorry.
Let's not do that again. Dang it.
Look at that picture.
Oh!
Oh!
Believe they call that a bullseye.
Yes!
We gotta do